Hello, everybody. Yeah, I know. What lunatic would go live here on Christmas Eve, right? Well, I thought that some of you might also feel alone during the holidays, just like me. I'm Nina, and I'm 14, and I'm about to celebrate this Christmas on my own in an empty house, choking down frozen pizza and tears, and hoping for a Christmas miracle. You're probably asking how all this happened. Well, as far as I remember, my mom and dad were never all that sweet to each other in public, but I never doubted that they cared about each other. For example, dad always loaded the dishwasher because he wanted to be helpful since mom was tired after cooking dinner. Or mom would wake up early to make dad's favorite breakfast if she knew that he was going to have a tough day. But then one day, mom announced that the firm where she was working at had made a few cuts and that she had to take on several positions and work more. Gradually, I started noticing that mom no longer decorated dad's plate when she served dinner. She no longer argued with him about his scientific conclusions. And it really looked like she wished she was somewhere else, other than at home with us. And dad, well, whenever he was at home, he normally locked himself in his study and spent hours in there, staring at his computer instead of at least trying to bond with me or Nikki, my older brother. In addition to that, Nikki had apparently entered his rebellious stage as a teenager. Every time I saw him, he was moody and unfriendly, so to speak. He no longer wanted to play video games with me like he used to, and he was constantly rude when talking to mom. I mean, during those rare moments when we were all together at home. So, by autumn, I began feeling so lonely, despite the fact that there were 3 people aside from me living in our house. And I started talking to my granny more frequently. She and grandpa were living in another city, and she was just getting used to using social media. So it was kinda helpful for her when I would call her on Skype. Anyway, Christmas was coming and I really wanted it to be the best of the best, you know? Just to keep the family together. So I decided to learn how to cook to be able to bake something special and extraordinary for everyone. I made some nice brownies, as they seemed to me. And I decided to give my dad a piece to try. So I brought a cup of tea and the treats I had just baked to his study. And I thought he'd be surprised that I made them myself. But dad wasn't there, and I decided to just leave the tray and leave him a sticky note on his computer. But when I accidentally touched the mouse, the screen turned on and I saw an awkward tab open in the browser. It turned out it was a dating site, and my dad actually had an enormously huge chat in there with a woman nicknamed Cherry66. Oh my god! I had found out that my dad was having an online affair. I just looked through it and saw like a million messages there, and I got scared. I don't know that I'd get caught. So I just switched everything back to sleep mode again, left my tray with the tea and treats, and rushed out of dad's study. I had no doubt about whether I should tell my mom about that or not. I imagined for a moment that dad might leave us for that Cherry66 woman, and I definitely didn't want him to do that. So I assumed that if mom was aware of this possibility, she would do something to prevent it. Or at least have a chance to prevent it. She looked a little bit upset, but there was no surprise on her face. Since then, I was praying for a Christmas miracle every day, that my parents' relationship was going to become normal. Well, every night I would go to bed nervous because I was expecting that I'd hear my parents arguing about it. I strained my ears trying to hear at least something, and every inch of my skin resembled a nerve ending when I heard someone's footsteps or how somebody was opening and closing doors and all that stuff. But nothing ever happened. Everything just went on as usual. The feeling of anxiety was gradually growing inside me, and I was sure that I had to do something with my newfound knowledge to, force the miracle or whatever. So I decided to tell Nikki about what I saw back then on our dad's computer. Nikki looked pretty puzzled and dejected, and honestly, I thought that he would tell me to keep my nose out of it or something like that. But he suddenly said that there was something that he wanted to tell me. A couple of minutes later, I found out the reason why he had been so mean to our mom lately. One day, Nikki was on a date with his girlfriend and saw her mom in town. She was supposed to have been at work, and he thought that maybe she was having lunch or something. But when he was about to approach her, he suddenly saw a man who had his arms around mom's waist, and both of them set off toward a motel nearby. Later that day, Nikki told mom that he saw her, and she looked puzzled and upset and promised that it was nothing and begged him to keep quiet. But a few days later, he, once again, saw mom with the same man, but this time they were kissing in his car a few blocks away from our house. I felt so disappointed and even scared because, as I'd been afraid of before, our family was literally falling apart. I had this sudden urge to do something about it. I don't know, maybe I saw it in the movies or on a TV show or somewhere else. But I immediately saw this picture of a loving couple on a romantic date with candles and a violin in my head. I thought that I knew exactly what to do to rescue our parents' marriage. We chose Thursday evening for the realization of our plan. It was then that both Mom and Dad promised to be home for dinner. We really did arrange everything like in the movies, with candles here and there, nice music, and food we ordered for home delivery from our parents' favorite restaurant. By the way, I spent almost all my savings on that. And Nikki bought a gorgeous bouquet for Mom. We decided to go upstairs in anticipation of an actual miracle. But something went completely wrong. Just as soon as Mom saw everything, she got angry. She thought that Dad had done all this, and she was mumbling something rude about him while blowing out all the candles. A few minutes later, Dad arrived, and he was also surprised by the scene. They thought they were alone and started yelling at each other, accusing one another of not having told us about their situation. Can you imagine? It turned out that they both knew about each other's affair, and they simply didn't want to do anything about it. We had a month to go until Christmas. Our parents still didn't know that Nikki and I were aware of anything. That's why we were getting ready to celebrate as usual. Just the four of us. But for me, it was literally the last chance to save our family. Honestly, everything seemed to be fine until that very morning. Mom was being so nice and kind, and Dad was whistling a festive tune. I was so excited about the presents that I'd bought for both of them. You know, those matching keychains. One was engraved with Mr. and the other with Mrs. I thought that they were cute. And I even got the feeling that maybe there was still a chance for a happily ever after for them. But even before we finished with lunch, I noticed that Mom was checking her cell phone every now and then. Eventually, this drove Dad crazy, and they had another fight. But this time, they got sort of carried away and were directly suggesting to each other that they go and spend the holidays with their other. Nikki couldn't take it anymore and just exploded. He said that he was tired of this life and just took his jacket and left. At this point, it was obvious that our parents understood that we already knew everything. Dad went to his study and angrily shut the door, while Mom, also being totally irritated, took her coat and went out the front door. I thought she might have wanted to get Nikki back, but when neither of them showed up, even 15 minutes later, I decided to call my mom in her cell. Right at that moment, Dad appeared in the kitchen where I was and told me that he wouldn't be at home that night, and just left. Apparently Mom heard this because she said I shouldn't wait up for her or dinner either, in the most irritated tone, and just hung up the phone. So there I was, standing in the middle of the kitchen, still holding my cell phone in my hand. I couldn't believe that my family had just left me all alone in an empty house on Christmas Eve. I felt horrible and lonely, and I was ready to cry at any moment. I looked around and saw that the Christmas tree was still underdecorated. So I just went up to it and started hanging Christmas toys on it one by one. Then our family photos came into my view, and I decided to place them on the table to sort of create the impression that the whole family was still together. I suddenly got an idea. What if there were some other people who were also upset and alone on Christmas? So I just thought, why don't I go live on Instagram? Honestly, I arranged my cell phone so that it was convenient for me to put the frozen pizza in the oven, and then set it on the table while talking to any possible audience that I'd have. So, here I am, guys, with you on Christmas. I am about to watch the Home Alone movie on TV. Oh, hold on for a sec. It turned out that my grandparents had decided to come and surprise all of us so that we could celebrate together, without telling anyone about their plans. No, seriously, I never felt so grateful to my grandma and grandpa, and I've never been happier to see them. I had no other option but to explain to them where everybody went on Christmas Eve. But there was also another surprise in store. After about 10 minutes, Nikki also arrived with his girlfriend Jessica. They saw me online and decided to come and cheer me up. What can I say? Even though my parents were somewhere else, I still got my Christmas miracle. It's been almost exactly a month since my parents got legally divorced. Apparently, since everybody already knew everything, there was no point for them to keep pretending that everything was okay between them. I can't speak for everyone, but it really makes me sad. I mean, I'm grown up enough to understand that Mom and Dad are relieved now, and that they are still young enough to find happiness with somebody else. But it turned out that it's so hard to realize that your parents are no longer together, even if you are not a child anymore. Hoping for likes here, guys. And by the way, how many of you also faced your parents' divorce? Leave your answers as first.
Hello, my name is Ellie, and I want to talk to you about having a strict parent. Being a parent is hard, they say, and some parents do a perfect job. Some don't. And then there is my mom. She has taken this parenting thing too serious, to my mind, and I am scared of her. Listen to my story. My mom is single. My dad died when I was only 2, and I don't remember him at all. My mom was very young, 23 or 24 at the time, and there was literally no one to help her. She was an orphan. But kudos to my mom. Her self-control and discipline is admirable. She managed to get a job, raise me, and never complained. How did she manage to sort out her life without any support? She's that type of obsessive person who is supposed to be excellent in everything they do. She was a straight-A student at school, top student at college. Then she got pregnant and had me. But her life was well planned. The initial idea was that when I grew up a bit, she was returning back to studies and starting her career as a lawyer. And I am sure she would have succeeded. But then my dad died and she had to reinvent herself, get a job, and forget about studies. So this is where my mom's story ends and mine starts. I have always been a regular child. I mean, an absolutely ordinary child, 100% similar to any other child on the earth. But this was not enough for my mom. You see, looking back, I understand that her thought was that her daughter must be perfect, like anything else in her life. And I was not perfect at all. I liked running around, shouting, climbing trees, jumping in puddles, and coming home dirty, being lazy and disobeying, sometimes throwing tantrums. And this is when it all started. She started being strict and punishing me. No domestic violence, of course. I was 5 or 6 when my mother once got angry at me and explained to me very clearly that she expected me to be obedient, calm, and do whatever she told me to do. It all sounds perfectly normal, but you should have seen the look she gave me at that point. She explained to me that she was already having lots of problems and didn't want me to add any. So I was supposed to grow up immediately and become a responsible young lady. And she actually didn't expect any objections. That was when my super disciplined life started. I was not supposed to get in any trouble. I was not supposed to object to what I was told to do. I was supposed to be always neat, tidy, precise, and punctual. At school, I had to get only A marks. And what happened if I failed? Well, nothing terrible. She was just looking at me and saying calmly that she was deeply disappointed. It's horrible to get that from your mom, believe me. If I screwed up a lot, she grounded me, or banned me from watching TV, or something else. If it was a huge screw-up, I got special treatment. Once, after school, I didn't go straight home but went for a walk with my friends. When I came home, Mom stared at me. Just stared. Nothing else. She didn't pronounce a word. And she remained silent for a couple of weeks until I got my courage and came to her to make peace. It doesn't sound horrible at all. It's not abuse or anything. But for me, this was pressure I couldn't bear. Point is that I was not perfect. I was not good enough at school, and I couldn't meet my mom's expectations. And I got punished not only when I did something wrong, but when I did my best and failed. I remember that sometimes I received test marks and prayed to God it was an A. If it was a B, I came home and Mom explained to me coldly that I was disappointing. I started telling lies to cover up some things that my mom wouldn't like, and when she found out, she stopped talking to me for weeks. It was a vicious circle of blame and punishment, and I couldn't get out of it. Don't think it was always terror and nothing else. She's actually very affectionate, and I got lots of attention from her and lots of love, until at some point I didn't screw up again, and this emotional roller coaster gave me lots of stress. However, there is a good point in having a strict parent. At some point, you notice that you start being more organized and responsible. This is my strong point. But when I got to my teens, I was so frustrated because my mom told me who my friends could be and who not, and what I was supposed to do or think, and of course, no boys. You don't treat a teenager like that. I'm not a child anymore. but I still couldn't stand up for myself. What I did was I took up volleyball and became the strongest hitter on my team. I put all the force of my frustration into every attack I was making. However, when I was 16, time came to do something. Once Mom again tried to prohibit me from going out with my friends without explaining any reasons, just I said no. That's when I decided to give her the talk. Time had finally come to stand up for myself. I told her that I was 16. I was a responsible and mature person, and I could decide for myself what was wrong and what was right. I was not perfect, and I understood that she wanted me to succeed in order to fulfill ambitions she had to put off. But now it was enough. I'm soon going to college, Mom. Just leave me alone and take care of yourself. It was harsh, and Mom made this stiff face she always had. But it didn't influence me anymore. I just came out of home and understood that she couldn't do anything to me. She had to give up at some point. And you know what? Life goes on. I am going to college. I don't want to be perfect for my mom anymore, and she seems to have found a new boyfriend. So now she has left me in peace. My childhood wasn't the happiest one. But I'm thankful to my mom for teaching me that you need determination and discipline to succeed in life. And those punishments? Well, I have to get over them. No one is perfect, not even my mom.